I was shocked when my fiancée mocked my plumber job and apartment, so I revealed a lake house to teach her a brutal lesson about respect. I'm 34, male. I grew up watching my grandfather crawl under houses and wade through basements. He came to America in 1958 with $8 in his pocket, a set of basic tools, and a determination that would later become legendary in our town. He started reliable plumbing from the back of a rusted-out Chevy truck, taking any job he could get. By the time I was born, he owned half the commercial buildings on Main Street. My father expanded the business into commercial and municipal contracts. My mother kept the books and ran the office with ruthless efficiency. We weren't flashy rich, but we were comfortable. I spent summers learning the trade with my dad, coming home covered in mud and sweat, but also with stories about finding wedding rings in traps and helping little old ladies who couldn't afford the service call. Growing up in our family meant understanding two fundamental principles: never show all your cards at once, and make damn sure anyone who claims to love you values you, not your assets. Then came the crash. My senior year of college, both my parents died when a drunk driver hit them head-on coming back from their anniversary dinner. I was 22, suddenly orphaned, and the sole heir to everything: the plumbing business, the real estate portfolio, and investment accounts my grandfather had started and my father had grown. On paper, I was worth 8 figures. In reality, I was a broken kid who couldn't even look at their empty house. My best friend Jared was my lifeline during that time. We'd been inseparable since 3rd grade, when he stood up to a bully who was giving me grief about my dirty plumber hands after a day working with my dad. Jared's family had money. His father was a surgeon, but he never had that entitled attitude. He helped me move into a modest 1-bedroom apartment and kept me from completely falling apart. "Stay in this place for now," he told me. "Don't make any big decisions yet." That temporary solution became a permanent choice. I finished my business degree, took over the family company, and kept living in that same apartment. Jared thought I was crazy. "Dude, you're sitting on a fortune," he'd say. "At least get a decent TV." But I liked the simplicity. I drove a practical but nice Audi, wore good clothes but nothing flashy. My close friends knew I was doing fine, but nobody except Jared knew the full extent of it. That was by design. I kept the business growing, expanding our commercial contracts, adding government work, and quietly reinvesting the profits in more real estate. I bought that Westbrook building my dad had always noted. It needed work, but after renovation it became our most profitable commercial property. Dad had been right, it had good bones. The middle-class kid covered in mud had become a silent millionaire in work boots. I still showed up to emergency calls myself sometimes, especially for loyal customers who'd been with us since my grandfather's days. Nothing builds trust like the owner himself pulling up at 2 a.m. to fix your burst pipe. For 10 years, that was my life. Running the business, managing properties, hanging out with Jared and our circle of friends, dating casually but never getting serious. Then I met my fiancée, Natalie. I met Natalie, 29, female, at a charity fundraiser 2 years ago. Jared had dragged me there because his hospital was one of the sponsors. She worked for the nonprofit hosting it. Smart, ambitious, with a quick wit that caught my attention immediately. I liked how she commanded the room, how she seemed to know exactly what to say to every donor. She wore a blue dress that stood out in a sea of predictable black cocktail attire. When I introduced myself, she immediately asked about reliable plumbing. "Oh, I've seen your trucks around town. You're the ones with the lightning bolt logo, right?" I was impressed. She'd noticed. Most people don't pay attention to plumbing companies unless their basement is flooding. Our first date was coffee downtown, then dinner the following week. She ordered confidently without looking at prices, a small detail I always notice. Things progressed naturally from there. She was career-focused, working her way up at the nonprofit, and I admired her drive. She had great stories about navigating office politics and dealing with difficult board members. I found myself looking forward to her texts throughout the day. Jared was cautiously supportive. "She seems great," he said over wings one night while watching a basketball game. "But don't you think it's time to tell her about, everything?" I shrugged. "When it feels right. It's been 4 months, Rich. You're practically living at each other's places on weekends." He wasn't wrong. Natalie and I had fallen into a comfortable rhythm, alternating between her modern downtown apartment and my deliberately modest place. But something held me back from full disclosure. Maybe it was caution born from watching how people changed when they found out about my family's worth. Or maybe it was my grandfather's voice in my head: the right person will value you for who you are, not what you have. The first time Natalie saw my apartment, I caught a flash of something cross her face. Later she admitted she'd expected something more impressive given my position running a family business. I explained that I believed in living below my means and keeping things simple. She seemed to accept it, even called it refreshingly unpretentious at the time. My dad always spent every dime he made trying to look rich, she said. It's nice to meet someone with different values. As the months passed, I introduced her to my world. She met my employees, came to company picnics, even helped out at a community service day where Reliable Plumbing provided free basic maintenance to a senior living facility. 8 months ago, I proposed. She said yes. We started planning a fall wedding and everything seemed perfect. Jared still had reservations. I don't know, man, he said during one of our fishing trips. We were out on Lake Geneva. At sunrise, the water still is glass. Something feels off. She makes these little comments sometimes. Like what? I asked, casting my line toward a promising spot near some lily pads. Like last week at dinner when she asked if you were settling for managing the family business, instead of doing something bigger. As if keeping dozens of people employed isn't enough. I brushed it off. Everyone has flaws, right? Besides, Natalie had been supportive in so many other ways. She'd helped design a new website for the company, suggested community outreach programs that had brought in new business, and seemed genuinely interested when I talked about the challenges of managing an established business in a changing market. Still, there were moments that should have been red flags, when she reorganized my closet, pushing my work clothes to the back and prominently displaying the few designer items I owned, or when she insisted we meet her former college classmates at an upscale restaurant and conspicuously mentioned my entrepreneurial ventures, rather than saying I ran a plumbing company. I chalked it up to normal relationship adjustments. No one's perfect, right? Last Saturday night changed everything. Natalie was hosting a girls' night at her apartment. I was at home catching up on estimates for a hospital expansion job when my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica, Natalie's college friend. Jessica and I had always gotten along well. She was straightforward, worked in construction management, and never seemed impressed by status symbols, a rare quality in Natalie's social circle. Richard, I'm sending you something you need to hear. I've been on the fence about this, but you deserve to know what Natalie really thinks. A minute later, she sent an audio file with the message. I recorded this tonight. I'm sorry. My stomach dropped. I knew before I even hit play that this wasn't going to be good. I hit play, and Natalie's voice came through clear as day. Have you guys seen Richard's work truck? It's embarrassing. Master plumber on the side like it's something to be proud of. You should see him come home sometimes, still smelling like other people's waste. Laughter in the background. God, if my father knew I was marrying a glorified toilet unclogger, he'd disown me. More laughter. So why are you with him? Melissa asked. I'd met her twice, a marketing executive who always seemed to be evaluating everyone in the room. He's nice enough, stable, and get this. His family has owned this plumbing business forever. The company itself is nothing special, but his dad and grandpa bought up real estate all over town. There's got to be some inheritance or property somewhere he doesn't talk about. So you're banking on hidden assets? Jessica asked, her voice noticeably cooler. Not banking on it, but it wouldn't surprise me. And anyway, I can help him make something of himself. The man needs direction. You should see that pathetic apartment. It's like he has no ambition whatsoever. But once we're married, I'll have a better picture of the finances. I've been pushing for us to look at Lakeview Terraces. Isn't that way out of a plumber's budget? Melissa again, with a snide undertone that made my jaw clench. That's what he keeps saying. Natalie laughed. But I'm sure there's more than he lets on. And if not, I can at least make him get a real career. My cousin's husband could get him into pharmaceutical sales. Anything's better than watching him come home with plunger marks on his shirts. More laughter. Just think. I have a master's degree and I'm marrying a guy who unclogs toilets for a living. My mom keeps asking if he's at least a plumbing contractor, and I don't have the heart to tell her he's just a basic plumber with a truck that smells like sewage. The recording continued for another minute with more mockery about my career choice, my apartment, and speculation about whether I was secretly loaded or just pathetically content with mediocrity. I sat there stunned. The voice was unmistakably Natalie's, but the words sounded like they were coming from a stranger. I texted Jessica, "Thanks for letting me know." Her reply came quickly, "I'm sorry. She's my friend, but that was too much. You seem like a good guy." I asked why she did it. Why now? "My dad was a union electrician," she replied. "Worked every weekend, holidays too, just so I could get through school." Listening to her mock you like that, like my dad never mattered. Nah, that hit different. There was a quiet dignity in her explanation that reminded me of my grandfather. "I fix what no one else wants to touch," he used to say. "That makes me essential, not disposable." I thanked her and ended the conversation. I didn't sleep much that night. By morning I'd made a decision, not out of anger, though I was certainly angry, but out of clarity. Natalie had shown me who she really was, and it wasn't someone I wanted to spend my life with. The next day, I picked Natalie up as planned for what she thought was a brunch date. She was slightly hungover, but in good spirits. No mention of last night's conversation, of course. She kissed me as she got in the car, wearing oversized sunglasses and a sundress. "I need carbs and caffeine," she said. The girls stayed way too late. "Change of plans," I said. "There's something I want to show you before we eat." She raised an eyebrow but didn't object. 20 minutes later, I pulled into the driveway of a 4,500-square-foot waterfront home, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a wraparound deck. A Range Rover sat in the circular drive, and the landscaping was immaculate. Professional gardens and stone pathways. "Whose house is this?" she asked, taking it all in. "Clients of yours?" "Mine, actually," I said casually, punching the code into the security gate. "I've owned it for about 5 years." She stared at me, then at the house, then back at me. "What are you talking about?" "I own this house. I rent it out to a surgeon and his family. They're away this weekend, so I thought I'd finally show you." Her expression was priceless. "You own this place, but you live in a one-bedroom apartment?" "Yes." I parked in front of the 3-car garage. "Would you like to see inside?" The tour took 20 minutes. The gourmet kitchen with double island and commercial appliances. The home theater with tiered seating. The primary suite with its absurd bathroom featuring heated floors and a soaking tub overlooking the water. "I keep my fishing boat here during the summer," I explained, pointing to a modest 22-footer tied up at the dock. "Much easier than trailering it every time Jared and I want to go out." She trailed behind me, occasionally touching things as if to verify they were real. Her eyes darted around, calculating, reassessing. I'd seen that look before on potential clients who suddenly realized our small family business had the resources to handle major municipal contracts. Finally, in the book-lined study overlooking the water, she found her voice. "Richard, I don't understand. Why would you live in that apartment if you own this?" "This is an investment property," I explained. "It generates income. I own 7 others like it." "7?" she whispered. "Well, not exactly like it. Each property is different. I have commercial buildings as well. 4 downtown, 1 in the University District, and a small apartment complex on the north side." She sank into one of the leather chairs, her face pale beneath her makeup. How much are you worth?" I didn't answer directly. Instead, I opened my laptop, logged into my investment account, and turned the screen toward her. Her eyes widened as she saw the number, 8 figures, not counting the real estate holdings. "This is separate from the plumbing company," I clarified, which, by the way, has tripled its commercial contracts in the past 4 years and is anything but struggling. "We handle all the major hospital systems in 3 counties, plus government contracts for municipal water systems. That glorified toilet unclogger business did $4.8 million in revenue last year." Her head snapped up, suddenly wary. "What do you mean?" "I heard everything, Natalie. You mocking my pathetic career and my embarrassing apartment. You speculating about my hidden assets and how you plan to make me get a real career after we were married." The color drained from her face. "Richard, I was drunk. The girls were pressuring me." I held up a hand. "The interesting thing is, you weren't wrong about there being assets I hadn't disclosed. You were just wrong about why." I closed the laptop. "My grandfather taught me to never show all your cards at once, and to make sure any partner valued me, not what I owned." "Of course I value you," she protested, tears forming. "This doesn't change anything." "It changes everything," I interrupted, my voice still calm. "You see, I've been considering whether to sell this house. The couple renting it is interested in buying now. I know I should, but not for the reason you might think." She looked confused. "I should sell it because you know about it now," I explained, "and I prefer to own things you don't know about." The full impact hit her and she stood up shakily. "You can't be serious. You're breaking up with me because of some stupid drunk comments?" "I'm breaking up with you because you were marrying me for potential access to assets you suspected existed. Assets you planned to get a better picture of once we were legally bound. That's not a partnership, Natalie. That's a business transaction." I closed the laptop and secured it in my briefcase with a combination lock. Years of handling sensitive business information had made digital security second nature to me. "That's not fair," she said, tears now falling freely. "I love you. You love who you thought I could become with your guidance, not who I am. You're embarrassed by my career, a career that has built considerable wealth for my family over 3 generations. You called me a glorified toilet unclogger to your friends and laughed about it." She tried a different approach, stepping toward me and placing her hand on my arm. "Baby, I was just being stupid with my friends. You know how girls talk sometimes. It didn't mean anything." I stepped back. The women I respect don't talk that way about the people they claim to love. My mother worked alongside my father for 30 years and never once belittled what he did for a living. In fact, she was proud of it. My mother had been a certified accountant who could have worked anywhere, but she'd chosen to build something with my father. They'd been partners in every sense of the word. "We're done, Natalie. I'll have your things packed and sent to your parents' house." The drive back was painfully silent. Instead of taking her to her apartment, I drove to her parents' house. They weren't particularly close, but I knew they were home. This conversation needed to be final, and I didn't want to risk her showing up at my apartment later. As we pulled up, she turned to me. "You're making a huge mistake." I misspoke. It was the wine talking. "No," I said quietly. "Wine doesn't create thoughts. It just lowers the inhibition to speak them. Your friends heard the real Natalie last night. So did I." I handed her the ring box. She'd left the engagement ring on the bathroom counter the night before. I'd placed it back in the box, left a note on her nightstand, and quietly let myself out. She texted me about it that morning, confused but not yet alarmed. I'd simply replied that we'd discuss it when I picked her up. "Richard, please. I'll have your things from my apartment packed and sent here. Anything I've left at your place, please donate. You can't just..." "Goodbye, Natalie." That was yesterday. Since then, my phone has logged 47 calls and 36 text messages from her. Emails, voicemails, DMs on every platform we were connected on. I haven't responded to any of them. Her messages evolved predictably. Anger. "You manipulated me." Bargaining. "We can work through this." Rationalization. "I was just trying to impress my friends." And now desperation. "Please give me another chance." She showed up at my office this morning. My assistant, who knew we'd broken up but not why, politely told her I was unavailable. She waited in the lobby for 3 hours before security escorted her out. I've canceled the venue and notified the key people involved in wedding preparations. Most have been understanding. Some, primarily her friends except Jessica, have sent angry messages. Apparently, I've humiliated her. Perhaps I have, but I'd argue she humiliated herself. Jared came over that night with drinks. "You did the right thing," he said. "Though I'm still pissed you never let me hang out at your lake house, you secretive bastard." It was the first time I'd laughed in days. Later, Jared brought up something I hadn't considered. "You know this isn't over, right? Natalie's not the type to just take an L and move on." "What do you mean?" "She just lost access to what she thought was her meal ticket, and she's been humiliated. People like that don't just walk away." He wasn't wrong. Natalie had always been careful about her image. It was part of what made her effective at her nonprofit job. She knew how to present things in the best possible light. "Just watch your back," Jared said as he was leaving. I didn't realize how prophetic his warning would be. 3 days after the breakup, Jessica messaged me. "Richard, I need to warn you. Natalie is telling people you were emotionally abusive during our relationship. She's saying you isolated her from friends, controlled her finances, and that the reason you broke up is because she finally stood up to you. She's been calling me nonstop, but I haven't answered." An hour later, Jared called. "Dude, have you seen what Natalie's posting on social media? She's making some serious allegations." I hadn't checked any platforms since the breakup. Now I looked. There it was, a long, tearful post about how she'd finally escaped a controlling relationship, how I manipulated and gaslit her for years, how breaking off the engagement was the price of her freedom. The post was meticulously crafted. She described specific incidents that never happened. Times I supposedly checked her phone while she slept, monitored her spending, questioned her about male colleagues. She claimed I'd systematically cut her off from friends who saw through me and that I'd forced her to account for every minute away from me. The comments were filled with supportive messages, her friends saying they'd always sensed something off about me, offering resources for survivors of emotional abuse. Her college roommate wrote that she'd always known there was something wrong with that relationship. A guy from her office claimed I'd once given him a threatening look when he hugged Natalie at a company event. My phone started blowing up, family members asking if I was okay, a few business associates checking in. My aunt, always quick to believe the worst, sent a scathing text about how disappointed she was in me. By evening, the harassment began. Natalie's friends bombarded my social media accounts with comments calling me an abuser, a manipulator, a controller. They tagged business pages associated with Reliable Plumbing, leaving one-star reviews claiming they'd heard about the owner and wouldn't support a business run by someone like me. One particularly aggressive friend, Melissa, posted screenshots of Natalie's allegations alongside photos of me at charity events and business functions. The juxtaposition was designed to show how I presented one face to the world while allegedly being a monster in private. I called my lawyer, Sean. He'd handled my parents' estate and had become something of a friend over the years. He was on the golf course when I called, but immediately left to meet me at his office. "This is serious, Richard," he said after I explained everything. "Defamation with claims like these can destroy your reputation and impact your business. Do you have the recording Jessica sent you?" "Yes." "Good. And are there any texts or emails where Natalie admits the real reason for the breakup?" I scrolled through her dozens of messages. There it was. "I know I said some terrible things, but you didn't have to humiliate me by showing off your wealth like that." "Got one," I said. "Forward everything to me. We may need to send a cease and desist, and if she continues, file for defamation." I was reluctant to escalate things legally. Despite everything, I didn't want to drag this out. But Sean was right. These weren't just hurt feelings. These were serious allegations that could affect my livelihood and the jobs of everyone who worked for me. "Look at it this way," Sean said, reading my hesitation. "This isn't just about you. You have, 30 employees? Their families depend on Reliable Plumbing's reputation. You have a responsibility to protect that." Put that way, the decision was clear. The next day, 3 commercial clients called to express concern about the allegations. 2 were hesitant but seemed relieved when I calmly explained the situation. The third, a school district administrator who'd known Natalie through her nonprofit work, was less convinced. We lost their contract renewal the following week. That contract alone was worth $175,000 annually, not enough to break us, but enough to hurt. Jared and Jessica both offered to make public statements defending me, but my lawyer advised against it for now. Social media wars rarely end well for anyone. Then came the confrontation I wasn't prepared for. I was leaving a job site, a commercial kitchen renovation for a high-end restaurant, when a black Lexus SUV pulled up. Natalie's father, her mother in the passenger seat. They both got out, blocking my path to my truck. "We need to talk," her father said, his face flushed with anger. "What the hell did you do to my daughter?" "Nothing," I said calmly, though my heart was racing. "She's lying. I have proof." "Proof?" her mother scoffed. "Natalie doesn't lie. She never has. We raised her better than that." "Then you should ask why she mocked my profession behind my back. Or why she was planning to access my finances after marriage. Or why she thought it was acceptable to call me a glorified toilet unclogger to her friends." Natalie's father stepped closer. He was shorter than me but barrel-chested, former college football from what Natalie had told me. "You think you're better than us because you have some money? You humiliated my daughter, made her think you were one thing, then pulled the rug out. Who does that?" "Someone who wants to be valued for who they are, not what they own," I replied. Her mother pulled out her phone. "Natalie is broken because of you. She can barely get out of bed. She's having panic attacks, all because you manipulated and controlled her." "That's not true," I said firmly. "And if either of you threaten or harass me again, I'll add you to the defamation lawsuit I'm preparing." "Lawsuit?" Her father barked a harsh laugh. "Good luck with that. Natalie has witnesses, friends who saw how you treated her, friends who will perjure themselves." "It's not perjury if it's true," her mother spat. One of my employees, sensing the tension, came over and stood beside me. Natalie's parents, seeing they were now outnumbered, retreated to their car. "This isn't over," her father called as they drove away. I was shaking when I got into my truck, not from fear, but from anger. They believed her completely, without question. No wonder Natalie could lie so easily. She'd had parents who backed her unconditionally, regardless of the truth. That evening, I received notice that Natalie had filed for a temporary restraining order against me, claiming she feared for her safety. The petition included fabricated incidents of threatening behavior that never happened. One alleged incident was particularly galling. She claimed I had once smashed a glass against the wall when she suggested I take a vacation from work. The truth was I'd accidentally knocked over a water glass while we were discussing potential honeymoon spots. I'd immediately cleaned it up and we'd laughed about my clumsiness. Reading the petition felt like she'd taken innocent moments from our relationship and twisted them into something dark and sinister. Her lawyer had probably warned her, but desperation makes people reckless. She'd lost the ring, the money, and the image. All she had left was the narrative. It was a violation worse than anything she'd said on the recording. She wasn't just attacking my career now, she was attacking my character. My lawyer filed a motion to dismiss the restraining order, submitting the recording and text messages as evidence. We also filed a defamation lawsuit against Natalie, seeking damages for the harm to my reputation and business. The legal process was more complex than I'd imagined. Filing the defamation suit required extensive documentation. The complaint itself was 27 pages long, citing 12 specific false allegations with evidence refuting each one. The damages portion detailed the lost school district contract, a 35% decline in new business inquiries since her posts, and the cancellation of 2 speaking engagements at industry conferences. In the days that followed, I met with my key employees. I didn't go into details, but I let them know there was a personal situation that might temporarily affect the business. Tony, my foreman who'd been with the company since my father's days, put his hand on my shoulder. "We've got your back, Rich." The preliminary hearing for the restraining order was scheduled 3 weeks out, fast by court standards. Meanwhile, my lawyer filed motions and began gathering witness statements and records to support the defamation case. The case itself would take longer. Sean explained we'd go through months of pre-trial motions, discovery, and maybe mediation before we ever saw a courtroom. During this time, I threw myself into work, taking on more direct oversight of projects than I had in years. I arrived at the courthouse for the restraining order hearing to find Natalie surrounded by supporters, including several from a local domestic violence advocacy group. She'd cut her hair short and dressed in muted colors, a stark contrast to her usual stylish appearance. The transformation was calculated, and it worked. Her parents sat directly behind her, her father glaring at me whenever I looked in their direction, her mother with an arm protectively around Natalie's shoulders. They'd brought reinforcements, too. 2 cousins who looked like linebackers and several friends, including Melissa. Jared and Jessica sat behind me, along with my foreman Tony and his wife. When Natalie took the stand, she told a completely different version of our breakup, claiming I'd revealed my wealth as a form of financial abuse to show her what she could have had if she'd behaved better. Her lawyer painted a picture of a manipulative man who enjoyed seeing his partner struggle financially, while secretly hoarding wealth. When my turn came, my lawyer played the recording. The courtroom fell silent as Natalie's voice filled the space. Her face went pale. Then Sean showed texts spanning our relationship. Ordinary, loving exchanges without a hint of control or abuse. He presented character witnesses, employees who'd worked for my family for decades, clients who'd known me for years. He introduced statements from mutual friends who testified they'd never witnessed controlling behavior, that Natalie had always seemed comfortable and equal in our relationship. Most damaging to Natalie's case were her own text messages after the breakup, focusing on my hidden wealth and how I'd humiliated her by revealing it, not mentioning fear or abuse until days later when her initial attempts to reconcile failed. After a 30-minute recess, the judge returned with her decision. Based on the evidence presented, I find insufficient grounds for a temporary restraining order. Ms. Miller's claims are not supported by the factual record and indeed appear to be contradicted by her own communications following the end of the relationship. The petition is denied. That evening, Natalie's social media went silent. Her original posts were deleted. Several of her supporters, who had been vocal, suddenly backtracked with vague posts about having heard only one side of the story. Jessica texted, "She's calling everyone in our friend group trying to do damage control. Most people are ignoring her." I should have felt relieved, but mainly I felt tired. This wasn't how I'd expected to spend what should have been the months before my wedding. 3 weeks after the restraining order was dismissed, Natalie's lawyer approached mine with a settlement offer. She would retract all allegations publicly, post an apology on all platforms, and pay damages, a surprisingly substantial sum that suggested her family was involved in the decision. The offer also included a mutual non-disparagement clause and confidentiality agreement regarding the terms. "Why now?" I asked Sean during our call. "My guess. Her father finally realized his daughter was lying. He probably heard the courtroom audio and saw her whole story unravel. The man may be prideful, but he's not stupid. This is damage control. The family wants it to go away before more damage is done to their reputation. Plus, they know we have a solid case. They've seen the evidence now. What about the defamation case? We've already spent thousands preparing. That's why they're offering a substantial settlement, Sean explained. They're buying certainty. If we go to trial, we'll likely win, but it could take a year or more. Meanwhile, these allegations hang over your head in business. Settlement gives immediate closure. Dragging her through court for a year sounded satisfying, but dragging my employees and brand through it wasn't worth it. She could pay, apologize, and disappear. I thought about it overnight. Sean was right. A quick resolution was better for everyone, especially my employees. So I accepted the settlement. Her retraction appeared on all platforms the next day. A carefully worded statement, acknowledging that her claims were inaccurate and made during a time of emotional distress. She apologized for any harm caused. It was stiff and formal, clearly crafted by lawyers, but it did the job. Most of the commercial contracts returned, though the school district took longer to come around. My business reputation slowly recovered, but the personal damage lingered. People still whispered. Some still believed her initial story despite the retraction. Her parents never apologized. I saw them once